a long time coming, but it's finally here. The much anticipated Devil May Cry 4 from Capcom. The first true sequel in the Devil May Cry chronology, features all of the aspects that DMC fans have come to know and love from the series. Fast-paced action, large-scale battles, and a heavy dose of sarcasm. It also manages to showcase the power of the PS3 and the 360 handling. But enough talk from me. Let's get into it.
Someone help me!
Devil May Cry 4 is set in and around the town of Fortuna, which happens to have a crowd of people that worships Sparta, Dante's father, as a god. Now, unfortunately for Nero and the people of Fortuna, Dante winds up crashing in during a religious ceremony and killing a large number of members of Nero's order. This, of course, makes Nero want to go after Dante for revenge, and sparks a story of retribution and betrayal, salvation and sacrifice across the game's 20 missions. Now, Nero is no slouch. He has access to a number of weapons and abilities. The first one, obviously, is the Red Queen, a motorcycle-handled gas-infused sword that packs a serious punch, and the Blue Rose, which is a double-barrel pistol that he can charge up. He also has a number of acrobatic maneuvers, powerful strikes, and other moves that you can unlock and purchase as the game goes along. However, possibly the most visually striking one is the Devil Bringer arm, which gives him a strong reach which he can use to grab and throw other enemies depending upon the situation.
So I'll cut to the chase.
At first glance, Nero appears to be a younger, apathetic, more irreverent kid that's definitely more dismissive of authority than Dante is. But Dante also manages to make his appearance known within DMC4 as well. And of course he comes packing his familiar tools of battle. He has Rebellion, his large sword, which he never goes without, as well as Ebony and Ivory, his twin pistols, which are basically extensions of his arms. He also brings Coyote, a sawed-off shotgun which he can use and wield with deadly efficiency. Of course, the majority of his abilities come from the various styles that Dante has accessible to him, such as Trickster, which allows him to teleport and vanish behind enemies for quick strikes, Royal Guard, which allows him to block just about any incoming attack, Swordmaster, which allows him to manipulate his sword in various ways to provide better strikes, and Gunslinger, which lets him fire off his weapons much faster than he usually would. Dante in this game is definitely older, wiser, and probably a little bit more sarcastic than you've ever seen him.
Glad I got your attention. I was beginning to feel a little ignored.
DMC4 has a variety of difficulty levels. Initially, you start off with Human and Devil Hunter, and completing a playthrough winds up unlocking new difficulty levels, as well as art in the game's gallery, movies within the story theater that you can view individually or as an entire whole, a Bloody Palace battle arena that you can test your skills in and see how stylish you can make your kills, as well as entries in the game's gallery that has illustrations of everything within the title and info on everything in the game within the game's library. There's obviously a ton of content that you will be able to find, look at, and unlock, and it definitely adds to the replayability of the title. Another reason why you want to replay this game over and over again is because you can definitely farm orbs and proud souls, which you use to purchase new abilities, items, and other elements for the game. The first two levels, relatively easy, especially if you've played DMC3 or even, say, a completely different title like a Ninja Gaiden. However, once you start getting into some of the later difficulty levels, like Son of Sparta or Dante Must Die, you're going to find that you're going to need to step your game up because it mixes up elements such as having different monsters in different situations, different tactics, or even different abilities that you haven't seen these monsters use before. However, even with all of these positive points, there are a couple of issues. The game can get extremely repetitive, especially when you start to get to Dante and you embark on a significant amount of backtracking within his missions. In fact, it almost feels like the game is primarily designed and focused around Nero, and Dante's role is primarily relegated to backtracking to previously explored areas. That kind of brings me to a second issue, though, which is that some of the characters that you might expect don't really have that much of a role in the game, such as Lady and Trish. Sure, you might have seen them within some of the trailers or some of the intros of the game, but they're only there briefly. You only get quick glimpses of them, but they really don't have that big of an impact within the game. Camera angles can also suck badly. Sure, you can maneuver the camera around with the right analog stick or have certain manipulation available to you, but there are a couple instances, especially when monsters start coming out of the floors or out of the walls, where you'll be blindsided for a second and you won't really know what's going on. So you'll have to constantly readjust at times, especially in the heat of battle. Of course, one of the biggest questions is whether or not the PS3 or the 360 version happens to be better than the other. Now, in this situation, the game is virtually indistinguishable from each other. However, the PS3 happens to have a slight edge over the 360, primarily because of the load times.
Not so fast.
Because you install DMC4 on the PS3's hard drive in a process that takes about 25 to 30 minutes, you'll experience vastly reduced load times as opposed to the 360, which doesn't offer you that feature. You might also find a couple of cleaner textures within the PS3 game. The 360 version has a few minor screen tears and some texture lines that are a little bit more harder edged, but it's very, very minimal, happens only every now and then, and you really have to analyze both sides frame by frame to really get a full-on understanding of what the true differences are.
How much could he really know?
But the focus of the game is more on Nero than Dante, and could have been an entirely different game altogether with a Dante cameo thrown in. DMC4 still has all of the elements that DMC fans expect from the series. Over-the-top action sequences, tons of replayability, and a high production value. Regardless of whether you own the PS3 or the 360, you're going to get an incredible gameplay experience, so you should definitely go and check it out.